Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tim's Fantasy Football Weekly Report. We're going to talk about fantasy football for the next half hour, 45 minutes. We're going to talk about moves that you could make, moves that you should make, moves that you shouldn't make, and maybe some past moves that we regret making. But to let you know a little bit about my fantasy football, time, I've been playing fantasy football pretty much for the last 36 years. Since 1989, I was in my first fantasy football league. It was very simple. One of my friends, my dad and myself, there were only three of us. And my dad accused us of cheating every week when he didn't do well. But that's how that went. But that was pretty much my life with my dad, but that's okay. I love fantasy football. I love fantasy sports. I got in this fantasy league one year with my cousin, and we went to the draft. It was in person. We went to the draft, and this was in the middle 90s, I would say, maybe 91, 92, even somewhere in there. And it was like this weird place. Like, I don't know if this was like a company or something, but we go in this place and it's like we're in this room with these bunch of empty rooms. It was weird. I don't know if the guy rented the place out or it was just odd. It was not like I didn't do well in that league anyway. I didn't feel comfortable and I did terrible in the draft. And, it was harder back then. You didn't have a lot of stats. You didn't know who, was projected to be good. You just took guesses back then. But, it's not like now. In this show, you got shows like this that they might give good advice. They might give bad advice. I'm sure I've given some terrible advice this year, but I think I've maybe given some good advice too. Just from my experiences all these years playing fantasy football and, being in 7 leagues this year. Well, I started 8, was in a guillotine league, lasted 5 weeks, got knocked out. But so Treylon Burks gonna be a good flex by playoffs. Spread the word. All right, we just spread the word, Josh. We just spread the word to who's ever watching. I mean, hopefully it's a lot of people watching, but you got Josh's word on that. But before we got a little business, before we get going any further, this Sentinel Sports Extra Fantasy Sports Report is brought to you by CT Roofing and Power Wash. Call them today for a estimate at 440-278-0205. And that'll get you. They can help you with the insurance claim. They'll give a free estimate. They do siding. They do aluminum I don't think it's aluminum anymore. I think it's vinyl now. I'm pretty sure. But so that's who helps us bring this show to you every week. Some news we got. Travis Hunter is out for the year. It was announced that he had season-ending surgery on, I believe, the shoulder, the clavicle, maybe. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. And I've never played one on TV either. So I don't know. But he's out for the year, and that's a shame because I like Travis Hunter. I think Travis Hunter is a good fantasy player. Seems like a really nice person. He's an upbeat person. And you notice since he got hurt and hasn't been around as much, the Jaguars, I believe they're 1-2 since he got hurt. So, I don't think that's a coincidence. But if you're in a keeper league, where you keep players from year to year. You've got to keep Travis Hunter. I got to keep him. I think he's going to be good. I have him in my keeper league, and I'm I'm going to keep him. I actually have him in 2. I believe I have him in my defense league, where we only have defensive players, called the Wycliffe Defense League. But so I'm keeping him. I'm hanging on to him, especially if you're in a league like, that has defensive players too, and you get points for yards. Yeah, you play Travis Hunter on defense rather than offense. You play him on defense, and you're going to get more points for him playing him on defense. But that'll be next year, because unfortunately he's out for the year now. Here's my first piece of advice for the night. First piece of advice. See, I'm wearing a Buccaneers shirt. I'm a Buccaneers fan. I've always, I don't hide that. I'm from Cleveland. I would hide if I was a Browns fan, but I'm not going to, because I'm not. But if you have Tampa Bay's defense right now, low point league, high point league, any league, I need you to immediately drop their defense. It stinks. It stinks. And you'll see, I can give you an example. In the high point leagues this week, like 89 points was the best week. Dead last in defense this week in high point leagues. Dead last. An average week is probably around 50 points. Dead last this week, 10 points from Tampa Bay, if you were dumb enough to have them. I had them to start the year. A little bit of homerism there, I guess. Then it was probably about 3-4 weeks in, I was like, yeah, I like the Buccaneers, but I like to win too. And I'm not winning with them as my defense. This possibly could be the worst defense in 30 years for them. It's horrible. It's disgusting defense. So if you have them, get rid of them. And if you don't get rid of them, shame on you. I warned you. Their defense is disgusting. Okay? All right? So let's move on. We have, I got to tell you, though, defenses, they're, they can be very, up and down defense, especially if you're in a high point league. But, 10 points is terrible. I don't care up and down. That's terrible. But if you're in a league that counts kick returns and punt returns for a team defense or for individual players, if that counts in their points, and it does in high point leagues usually, you've got to try to pick up some of these guys. My son did it in his high point league that he runs this year, and he's cleaning up. He's winning with huge points. I would say his league, 600 points is about average, maybe. I can't be totally sure. 600 points. If you get 600 points that week, you'll probably win. He's gotten 1,000, I think, at least 3 times this year, because he's picked up guys that return kicks. So I used to be really good at that in the league I run. I used to concentrate on that, focus on that. I've kind of lost. I don't want to say I lost focus, because then it seems like it's an excuse that I'm only 5-5 in that league this year. The league that I've not lost the championship since before the pandemic. But the last time I didn't win the championship in the Wycliffe Fantasy Football League, which is now in its 14th year, the last time I didn't win the championship, Jameis Winston was the Buccaneers quarterback. Okay, so I'm having a down year this year. I just need to get in. I need to just get in. I was the 6th seed last year and won the championship. So I just need to get in. And that's what you got to do when you're at this point here. We're going into week 11, right? So that's it. You have to see. Okay, I'm 500. I'm 2 games behind the last playoff spot. I got to win at least probably, this is week 11. Most leagues are have 5 weeks left. You got to win probably 4. So you really have to focus on who you're going to pick up. Now, you really have to focus. You have to be, I take the same philosophy in fantasy sports as Bill Belichick took for years as the Patriots head coach. Was I've just got to get better as the year goes on. So when the playoffs come, you have the best edition of your team that you've had all year. Who cares if you had a great team in week 1 and 2? Oh, you start out 2-0, that's great. But when you get to weeks 13 through 15, you go 0-3 and you miss out on the playoffs, and then your team stinks in the playoffs. What did that do? How did that help you? Oh, it didn't help you at all. So I take that philosophy, getting better every week. We've got injuries. I've got injuries in all my leagues. I think in my Wycliffe Fantasy Football League, there's 10 injured list spots available. And I've got, I think, 8 guys on the injured list right now. 6 on offense, I believe. So, but that's no excuse. I should have planned better. So, but I also think that if you, like I said, if you could pick up those guys that return kicks, do it. They're going to win. You're going to win. You're going to win a week because of a guy like that. I'm telling you're going to win a week. Especially if it's close, you're definitely going to win the week because he's going to put you over the top. Kickers also, in high point leagues, you got to get kickers that kick long field goals. Of course, everybody seems to kick field goals 50 yards or more now. So, but, if you can kick a 60-yard, then you're going to get a ton of points too. But that's my philosophy in this, in football. You have to build as the season goes on, even in baseball or basketball or hockey, because you got a 2-3 week period there at the end. Really, that first week, I was in a basketball league last year where I went, I think it was 22 weeks in the regular season. I'm pretty sure 21 or 22. I did not lose. I was 21-0, 22-0, something like that. What happened? I got the bye in the first round. Second round, I lost. Guys were hurt. Guys were sitting. In the NBA, that's tough. That could get you. And so that's what happened to me last year. Start Devontae Adams, Waddle, or Henderson. And so this is in a flex spot. I'm going with, oh boy. Let me see here. I got to see. I meant to pull this up before I started the show, and I forgot. I got to see. I want to look and see who those teams are playing. Adams, Waddle, and Henderson. Let me see if I can get my pro football pick'em up here, and I can see who they're playing this week, and then I can give you a better. I was low key thinking Henderson too, but let me look who these clubs are playing. Let's see. The Patriots. Well, the Patriots are playing the Jets. Yeah. Miami's playing Washington. They're pretty disgusting town too. They're so bad that Dan Quinn said he's taken over the play calling for the defense. That won't help. And then you got who's the other one? Oh, Devontae Adams. He's still, yeah. I go with Henderson. I would go with Henderson. I agree. I think Henderson. It might be risky, but you know what? We take risks every day, and we take risks in fantasy. And if the risk pays off, great. Jefferson, what should you do with Jefferson? Justin? Like, they're playing Chicago this week. If that's what you mean, Justin Jefferson, play him. Play him. I didn't hear any. He's not hurt. I didn't hear anything about him being hurt. Oh, okay, Jefferson. Oh, Jefferson for ETN and Waddle. I don't know. It's hard. Yeah, Jefferson did have a great week last week, but I'm sticking with Justin Jefferson. He's too good. Tracy for Parker Washington. If it's a keeper league, do it for sure. Trade away Sutton and Chase Brown for CeeDee Lamb. No, because the Cowboys are too volatile, and you never know what could happen there. I'm not doing that trade. I know it looks very attractive, but I'm not doing it because he wasn't even in the top 10 receivers this week. Well, they were off. So that would be why he wasn't in the top 10, right? But yeah, no, I don't know. CeeDee Lamb, I stay away from him. Ferguson, Otten, or Theo. You know what? This is not because I'm a Buccaneers fan. I did watch the game last week. But I'm going with Otten because they're going to start using him more. The offensive line's healthier. He doesn't have to block as much. So, and that showed last week, and he had a good week. I think he was the 6th ranked tight end in high point leagues, and maybe about the same in the low point. Should I start Junkins this week at flex? Well, the Browns are playing the Ravens. I'm going Henderson. Yeah, I gotta go Henderson. I like Junkins a lot. I really like Junkins a lot, but I think this week he's going to struggle against the Ravens. Traded Garrett Wilson for Javonte Williams last week. Huge win. Okay, yeah. Look, the Jets are a mess. Until he goes somewhere else, he's not going to be a consistent player. Should I start Henderson or Junkins this week at flex? And I said, yeah, I would start Henderson. I definitely would start Henderson at that point. But we got some stuff. I got some stuff to go over with you guys. Caleb Williams, Jalen Daniels, and Flacco. Is Burrow worth a number 1 waiver wire pickup? Why did somebody in your league even release Joe Burrow? Like, there was always a chance he could come back. That person's dumb if they released him. Well, is it a keeper league? CJ, is it a keeper league? Is it a keeper league, CJ? Because if it's a keeper league, Flacco's, he can't have much left. I would try to get Burrow if I could. Why not? No keeper, but 10-0, looking at playoffs. You might as well try to get Burrow. Why not? Trade Dart and DJ Moore for Rodgers and Juwan Jennings. Well, if that's a keeper league, I'd do it because you're getting younger. But if it's not a keeper league, Dart is so up and down right now. Well, so is Rodgers. And Jennings, he's hurt all the time. So I thought Riverside was pretty good this year. I think they were better than people thought they would be. I do. I think they were better than I think people thought they would be. We had a lot of good football in Lake County this year. There's still I believe 5 teams alive. No, 4 teams alive. Mentor, Perry, Kirtland, and a private school. So I think that, you know, I thought there was a lot of good football in Lake County this year. Alston is going to USC. Yes, he is. I'm so glad. I interviewed him as a freshman and met him. He's a very nice young man. His family's a very nice family. Good support system there. He's going to do well. And I'll say it right here. We might be saying at some point in 3 or 4 years, should I pick up Sean Alston for my fantasy team? I would not be surprised if we are. When I saw him play the first time as a freshman, I said, wow, this kid reminds me of Kareem Hunt. How he just shot through the line. So I'm a fan of Sean Alston, and I hope that it works out for him at USC. Gives me a reason to watch USC late when they're on late. I love those late college games on Saturday night or Friday night. So it gives me a reason to, watch them. I'm not a huge fan of Lincoln Riley, but, I'll root for them because he'll be on the team. You got to root for your local guys, right? You have to. So, but I got some stuff to go over here. I got the top 10 positions for the week. Top rankings for this past week. Well, it's not rankings, it's actual statistics. Top 10 quarterbacks this past week in high point leagues. And let me tell you something. I think this one's a shocker. Number 1. He's number 1 in high and low. So number 1 with 89 points this week. Davis Mills of the Houston Texans filling in for C.J. Stroud, or as we used to call him on the old Josh and Tim Talk Sports show, because he does have a giraffe-type neck. Long neck Dave, number 1 quarterback of the week. Then we have Drake May, number 2. Mac Jones, number 3. Matthew Stafford, number 4. This is in high point leagues. Tyler Shaw, number 5. How about that? I would not pick him up. And I wouldn't pick up Davis Mills either, unless he's going to play more. Because, it's just not long term. You know what I mean? And like I said, gear yourself for the playoffs. Who's going to be playing in 5 weeks for Houston? Well, it's going to be C.J. Stroud. All right. So, and then we have Jared Goff was 6th. It was 80 points in high point leagues. Caleb Williams 7th. Baker Mayfield 8th. Even though I don't think he had a great week, he was still 8th. Tet or GW for the playoffs. Full name. Give me the full name, and then I can tell you what I think. I'm not good with abbreviations. You young people, you're great with abbreviations. You talk in abbreviations and understand. I just traded T Mac and Hunt for Q Johnson. Is this a good trade? Yeah, I think so. Garrett Wilson. Oh, Garrett Wilson. So that was you got. Let me check here. Or Garrett Wilson. I think so. I think Garrett Wilson still, because you know what, the Saints offense might be getting a little better. It's still not great, but it's still getting a little better. But so there we got Baker Mayfield was 8th, Josh Allen 9th, and J.J. McCarthy was 10th for QBs in the high point leagues. So the low point leagues are different. And we have a real surprise at number 9. Shadur Sanders fans are going to have a stroke at the guy who was number 9. But Davis Mills was 1, 29 points in low point leagues. Matthew Stafford, number 2. Jackson Dart, number 3. Caleb Williams, number 4. Jared Goff, 5. Mac Jones, 6 with 24 points. That's a lot of points for quarterbacks in low-point leagues. Baker Mayfield, 7th. Josh Allen, 8th. Dylan Gabriel, 9th. Yeah. Think of the quarterbacks that Dylan Gabriel had more points than this week. Quite a few. Quite a few good ones. And he had more points. Yep. So, actually, if you look at this, Dylan Gabriel had the most fantasy points in low-point leagues of any quarterback in the AFC North. Oh, Sanders fans are cringing. Should I start Brandon Knight or Rashid Shaheed? I believe Brandon Knight I have. Brandon Knight. I'm thinking I'm going with Knight. I would go with Knight there. Shaheed, I'm not sure, at this point. So, but and Jacoby Brissett was the 10th quarterback. He had 19 points. So let's get to the top 10 receivers. Top 10 in high point leagues. Chris Olave, number 1, he had 64 points. Jackson Smith and Jigma, 2nd. Parker Washington, 3. Isaiah Williams, 4. Kyle Williams, 5. Jalen Naylor, 6. He had 44 points. Jamison Williams, 7th. Nico Collins, 8th. Ladd McConkey, 9th. And Mac Hollins, he was 10th. But there's a caveat for Hollins. He played the Bucs defense. So anytime a running back or receiver or quarterback has played the Bucs defense, don't take too much into that. Start 2, Henderson, J-Mo, or Addison. Henderson and Addison, I would say. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that. RJ Harvey or Woody rest of the season. Trade Wayndale Robinson for Garrett Wilson. I'm 4-6-1. Dell is my flex. Keenan Allen on the bench. Oh. All right, I would make that trade. That strengthens you. Yeah, I would make that trade. But so here we go with the top 10 receivers this past week in the low point leagues. We have number 1, Drake London, 19 points. Naylor, number 2. Jamison Williams, 3. Emeka Egbuka, 4. McConkey, 5. Olave, 6 with 16 points. Tez Johnson, 7th. Nico Collins, 8th. Smith and Jigma, 9th. And Parker Washington, 10th. And then we go to the running backs. Running backs in the high point league this past week. Jonathan Taylor, or as I like to call him, Jonathan Taylor Thomas from the old talk show or the Tim Allen show, but Home Improvement. But we got Jonathan Taylor, high point league number 1, 150 points this week. That is insane. So, and then you got number 2, Travion Henderson, number 3, Devon Achane, 4, Jahmyr Gibbs, 5, Breece Hall, 6 was Saquon Barkley with 59, which doesn't seem like a lot compared to Jonathan Taylor, but 59, I was happy with it. That's what I got. Kamani Vidal, then he did well too. I think it's Kenny Nwangu. He's a kick returner, though, and he had one of those returns against the Browns, so I wouldn't put a lot into him. Although, what have you got to lose picking him up? You know what I mean? Especially if you're weak in the running back position, pick him up. You never know. Thoughts on Kyron or Breece run back one or see, I like Williams more than I like Brees Hall, believe it or not. I mean, I just really do. I'm sorry. I think I like Brees Hall better. I mean, I like Williams better. And then we got the top 10 running backs in the low point league. Jonathan Taylor, 47 points in a low point league. That's insane. That is insane. Gibbs, second. Achan, third. Henderson, fourth. Kyron Williams, fifth. Ahead of Brees Hall, who was sixth with 19. Tyler Algiers, where's Bijan Robinson in any of this? Oh, he's nowhere to be found because I think he's overrated. I've been saying it all year. I've said it since he came in the league. He takes weeks off. And then eighth, Kamani Vidal. Ninth, Josh Jacobs. And then 10th, Zach Charbonneau at 14 points. Tight ends, which I think is a position that could, if you got a close week, the tight end position can win you or lose you a week. And they're really inconsistent, though. That's a problem. They're really inconsistent, as I like to say, inconsistent. Top 10 this week. Juwan Johnson from the Saints, 37 points from a tight end in a high point league. That's still a lot, even in a high point league. Trey McBride, number 2. George Kittle, number 3. Tyler Warren, 4. Dalton Schultz, 5. Cade Otton, I said, pick him up if you have a chance. He's going to start getting the ball more now since Chris Godwin, who knows when he'll be back. And, Mike Evans he claims he might be back for the playoffs, but I don't know. So Cade Otton, he had 21 this week. Theo Johnson from the Giants was 7th. Colby Parkinson was 8th. Rams. Sam Laporta, 9th. And then Colston Loveland, who's now on the Bears, he 13 points in the high point league. So tight ends, it's hard. It's hard. If you're going to get a lot from a tight end, you're lucky. It's just really hard. But low point top 10 tight ends, Trey McBride, 19. Juwan Johnson was 2nd. Kittle, 3rd. Schultz, 4th. Dalton Schultz, 4th. Parkinson, 5th. Warren, 6th with 10 points. Jackson House from Buffalo was 7th. Cade Otton, 8th in the low point leagues. David Njoku, 9th. And, I forgot to put the 10th guy. I don't know who it is. I forgot to put him. So we got the top 9 tight ends in the low point league. I completely forgot to put the 10th guy. I don't know why. I don't know what I was thinking. But and now we got kickers. See, I think kickers are very important. I think they're very important. You have to get a kicker in the draft that you can count on. But there's been a lot of inconsistency with kickers in the NFL recently. So that's hard too. The top kicker in the high point leagues this week is Cameron Dicker, the kicker, 99 points. And then you got number 2, Jason Myers. And then you got Cam Little, who set the NFL record a couple weeks ago, 68-yard field goal for the Jaguars. I'm so glad it's from the Jaguars. You know what I mean? And it's not from the Giants or the Cowboys. Because Brandon Aubrey is the greatest kicker that ever lived, right? Yeah. But then you got Cam Little was 3rd. Harrison Mevis for the Rams, but he's been reverted to their practice squad, but it looks like he's going to kick again this week. So he'll be activated probably on Sunday. And then you got Chris Boswell, 5th, or as I have it written here, Curris. Wow. Good thing I'm reading this. And then you got Jake Bates was 6th, 52 points. Will Richard from Minnesota, 7th. Tyler Loop, 8th. Nick Folk, 9th. And Browns kicker. Browns fans wanted him hung in Public Square in Cleveland after week 1. And he's done pretty well since then. He's become a reliable kicker for the Browns. in spite of their special teams coach, Bubba Ventrone, who should have been fired immediately after Sunday's game, but he is still on the coaching staff, which I cannot understand. I would have left him and made him get his own plane ride home, because that special teams performance by the Browns, that might be the worst special teams performance I've seen since Lake Erie College gave up 4 kick and punt returns in a game several years back. Well, probably about 10 years ago now. And that was ugly. So that performance by the Browns special teams Sunday was disgusting. But Andre Smythe, he's doing well. So he's on both lists here for kickers. Top 10 for the low point leagues. Jason Myers, number 1 with 15 points. Tyler Luke, number 2. Cameron Dicker, 3. Cam Little, 4. Jake Bates, 5. Nick Folk, 6 with 9 points. Will Richard, 7th. Andre Smythe, 8. Michael Badgley, 9th. And Young Ho Koo, who is now back on the practice squad, but he's probably going to be activated again too. He was 10th with 8 points. So here we go for here. Who would you rather, May or Mahomes? I know. This is the issue, right? This is the issue. Do I bench Mahomes and he has a great week? Or do I, what do I do? No, New England's playing the Giants or the Jets. Dylan Gabriel had a great week against the Jets. Okay? The Chiefs are playing Denver at Denver. I'm going with Drake May all damn day. There we go. I'm on for Vidal, Hampton, and Ladd. I make that trade in a second. Yes, I make that trade in a second. I would definitely make that trade. Yeah, you're giving up one guy for a 3 pretty good guys. Yeah, I'm making that trade. I'm making that trade right now. So, yeah, I would do that. Would you do Jamar for Waddle and Javonte for Jamar, or Javonte or Jamar for Pittman and Hall? No, I'm not trading for Hall. I made that clear. I don't like Hall. I don't think he's that good. I don't think he's a game changer. I'm not trading for a guy who's not a game changer at this point of the year. Jamar for Waddle, I could do that one. Oh, but you're giving up Javonte too? Yeah, no. Stay with the status quo there. Don't do anything. I think you're good. I think you're pretty good. So, yeah, I wouldn't do that. And so then we got the top 10 defensive players. So if you're in a league that has defensive players, usually a high point league, lower point leagues never have Jamon for Javonte and Waddle. Oh. Well, Waddle will be, Miami's going to be trying to save their jobs at the end. So, no, I don't know. I just don't know. Five-star. I'm not gonna tell you yes or no either way, because I'm just not sure about that one. You know what I mean? And I don't want to give you bad advice. I don't. So I'm gonna just say you're gonna have to make that decision on your own, five-star. Okay? Yeah, it's hard. It's definitely a hard one. It's definitely a hard one. I appreciate you asking me, but I just don't want to give you bad advice. You know what I mean? I just don't want to steer you the wrong way in this situation here. So hopefully, the decision you make is the right decision. Where are you in the standings in your league? My gut is telling me don't do it. Where are you in the standings in your league, 5-star? Are you going to be a playoff team? Are you fighting for a playoff spot? So I don't know. But what we got here is top 10 defensive players. And if you're in high point leagues, here's your top 10 defensive players. I'm going with DeMarcus Lawrence, or these are the top 10. I'm not going with, these are the top 10. So let's go with number 1, DeMarcus Lawrence, linebacker, defensive end for the Seahawks. 117 points this week. That'll win you a week when you get that much from a defensive guy. Danielle Hunter, Houston, linebacker, defensive end. Will McDonald, defensive lineman, defensive end, Jets. Tyrese Knight, linebacker, Seattle. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, defensive back, safety, Chicago. Sheldon Rankin, former Brown, gone now to Houston and playing well. 52 points, defensive tackle. Khalil Mack, linebacker, defensive end, Chargers. Jaron Jones, defensive back, cornerback, Jacksonville Jaguars. Caillou Blue Kelly, cornerback, Las Vegas. And Zaire Franklin for Indy. He had 43 points this week from a linebacker. That's where you get the points in fantasy, really. Linebackers, mostly. Cornerbacks or safeties if they're kick returners, maybe. But individual defensive players, cornerbacks and linebackers, I try to get them. I mean, you get defensive linemen that get sacks, and they also get points for yards lost. But I still think the linebackers are where you go. If you're going to draft defensive guys, go with linebackers. In my league, you play 3 linebackers, and you have a defensive player, so it can be any position. And I almost always have a linebacker in that. Sometimes I play Antoine Winfield Jr. in that because, he has a tendency of getting some interceptions, some fumbles, get some yards along with that. You remember me, I was on the Lake Catholic team. Hi, I don't remember you. I didn't cover the game, but you might have talked to our reporter, Joey Schneider. If you did, I hope things are going well for you and you guys move on in the playoffs and you do well. Good luck this week. You're playing Glenville, I believe, at Glenville. So good luck this week. Glenville's always they're a good team. Yes. And thank you for being a nice young man. And good luck this week and good luck to your team. Stay healthy too. Football's a tough sport. So the top 10 defenses for this week are in high point leagues. There's some high points. So we got number 1, New York Jets, 174, and that's because you get special teams points. And they had a punt and a kick return for a touchdown. Back to back. That doesn't happen that often. But with the Cleveland Browns, that's how they are. They like to make teams look good. So they were number 1 with 174. Seattle, number 2. Ravens, number 3. Chargers, number 4. Browns, number 5. I have the Browns defense in several leagues, and they do well for me. I actually traded for the Browns defense in my league. Eagles, 6th. They had 87 points. Packers, 7th. Broncos, 8th. Houston Texans, 9th. And Miami Dolphins, 10th with 80. And the top 10 defenses in the low point league. We have the Seattle Seahawks, number 1. Number 2, New York Jets. 3, Chargers. 4, Texans. 5, Broncos. 6, Dolphins. I didn't put points next to any of these. I must have been like, I'm almost done with this, so we're going to forget the points. 6, Dolphins. 7th, Saints. 8th, Jaguars. Eagles. 9th, and Raiders. 10th, and I think the Raiders got 8 points. I'm pretty sure. 8 or 9. Yeah, I think it was 9. So that's it for the list of where teams and players were this past week. But just because, you can't fall into that trap. You can't be a short sample guy, and you got to know who a team's playing. You have to look at matchups. I'm telling you something. You look at matchups. It's going to work out for you 80 to 90% of the time. You don't look at matchups, it's a crapshoot. Worth using a number 2 waiver on Ravens defense. Can also just wait and get Falcons, Chargers, Bears this week. The Ravens defense is getting better. And you know how they are. They were 3rd in the high point league. They were not in the top 10 in the low point league this week. But I'm telling you, the Ravens defense, yeah, it would be a sneaky pickup. I think it would be. Willie 06. I definitely would. Yeah, I think I'd take a chance on that if I could. So, but like I said, you can't judge by 1 week with these teams. You have to look at their track record, how they've done with things. And, and like I said, Tampa Bay had a terrible week on defense this week. I'm not judging. I'm not saying drop them just because of this week. When they have a good week defensively, I'm stunned. They're not a good defense anymore. And a lot of it's tackling. Well, they always talk about Todd Bowles' blitz. Well, yeah, Todd Bowles, they blitz a lot. Quarterback runs away from the defensive end and runs 15 yards for the first down. Or completes the pass after he's been able to hold the ball for 6 minutes. Terrible defense. Don't pick them up and get rid of them if you have them. So I think that's going to be the end for the night. We're almost we've gone almost 50 minutes. But again, I want to remind you that this show is brought to you by CT Roofing and Power Wash. Call them for a free quote at 440-278-0205 and help with your insurance claim. They'll help you with it. They'll help you file your insurance claim. So that's pretty much it for this week. I hope I gave you some good advice. I hope I helped some people out with some trades. I hope maybe I helped you out, and talked you out of maybe making a mistake in a trade, because you don't want to regret making a bad trade. I'm very skeptical of I don't make a lot of trades. I made 2 trades this year, and that's probably the most I've made in quite a while. I want more value back for than what I'm giving up. If the other guy don't want to do it, well, then he doesn't do it. But you should never get less value back than what you're giving up. Ever. Ever. That would be like, oh, I'm going to give you this car. I'm going to trade cars with you. And this car is a year old and worth $35,000, and I'll take your 6-year-old. No, that's just, you don't do that. So that's going to be it for tonight. I hope everybody has a great week, and everybody wins their league this week. We'll be back next week at 8:30 on the 18th. Everybody have a good night.